Hello everyone, I'm Katie McDougall. I'm sitting in for Al Zuccaro for BocaWatch TV today. I'm a longtime resident of Boca Raton. I was raised and educated here. I started my small business here in 1989. It's basically now an international business since it's a web-based business. I am currently serving as the Vice President for the Riviera Civic Association. And tonight's topic is specific to the residents of the Barrier Island. The issues we'd like to address reflect the concerns of single-family homeowners. How are we protected from injurious effects of intrusive commercial heights? Are there ways the city can make us feel more secure through zoning? Every platted section of single-family homes in the city has a special designation. Along the East Palmetto Corridor and backing onto single-family residential homes, the zoning code is Business 1, or B1. The districts zoned B1 make up a very small part of the city proper. You'll find it along 2nd Avenue and east of the Intracoastal on 1,400 square feet of East Palmetto Park Road. In 2009, Mayor Haney suggested a beach overlay district be added to the Barrier Island. This would specifically address future development of the area. None of my guests tonight nor myself were living on the Barrier Island in 2009, so we would really like the mayor to revisit this. We are here to ask that the Beach B1 code, this beach to ocean corridor, a unique section of Boca Raton, be revisited and ask the mayor and the city council to create a special zoning district just for our little strip. The character of this corridor impacts everyone's property values and the perception of the city. We are a vibrant city. We're a beach town and a world-class city. It's both elements that make Boca Raton such a standout as far as South Florida communities. In 2015, the city was approached by a petitioner asking for allowable height of 40+ feet adjacent to single-family homes. The additional height was allowable in the code, and so the city granted it. However, this year we have heard from the city manager's office that this allowance for additional height was an anomaly in the code. It should have been removed years ago. Commercial properties abutting single-family residential homes are capped at 30 feet throughout most of the city. The additional height by our commercial neighbors is aesthetically and financially intrusive. The added height will have a negative financial impacts on homes that share property lines with these commercial buildings. It has been suggested by the Planning and Zoning Board that the Beach B1 be treated differently. Assistant City Manager and City staff have recommended to City Council that they delete the allowance for this additional height in the B1 and the R2 districts. It's now November. We were promised that this would be on the fall agenda. Our concern is that the exception will become the norm, and it won't be long before one of our other commercial neighbors requests 50 feet. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our BocaWatch TV show. With me today is a resident of Port Lamar, part of the Riviera Civic Association, Craig Goldberg. And Craig lives on Southeast Olive Way. Craig is a real estate investor and has been a longtime resident of Boca Raton. Welcome, Craig. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, your property the city approvals for a pending project that will go over 30 feet. As a resident and as the person that's going to be most impacted, do you have any specific comments or feelings you'd like to share about commercial heights along our corridor?
Well, I think it's, the original city in the B1 zoning district, which you alluded to at the beginning, talked about how the code designates the height capped at 30 feet with an additional allowance, so to speak, up to 50 feet if granted. And in the case of the parcel we're speaking of, they did grant that particular variance. And it's a concern for a number of reasons. There are residential properties like mine that are that abut the property that are impacted. Obviously, I don't want a 50-foot building overlooking my backyard or my home. The issue is the barrier island itself. There are buildings on A1A, that have been there since the 60s and 70s that are high rises on the beach, but we're not talking specifically about the beach here. We're talking about the Palmetto Park Road corridor from the bridge to the to A1A, which is the ocean.
Because A1A is a different zoning.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's a concern, and when you grant a variance to allow a building such as what was proposed to be constructed on that piece of land that isn't very big to begin with. I don't even think it's a full acre. There's nothing there right now that matches the height of that particular building that would be built.
I think the average is like 25, 28 feet.
Right. So just building it itself would it's going to either start a precedent, or if nobody follows suit, it's just going to be a white elephant to the neighborhood.
That's true. So you basically built your home in 1987, did you say?
No. I built my home, I started building it in 2007.
Okay.
So it was finished in 2009. So I've lived on the island since then, which is approximately 7 years.
And your home is absolutely beautiful, I have to tell you.
Thank you.
It's gorgeous. It's done in the Meisner style, I would say, a very classy way. So when your home was built, La Vieille Maison was still your neighbor?
They were still there. The building was still there. That particular building, as you know, went through an owner or two before the owners got title to it.
Right.
But that building was built in the 20s, I believe, and there was a big fight, if you recall, over the preservation and with the Historical Society trying to preserve the building. But it had deteriorated to such a point that as a developer or as an investor or with the gentleman that owned it, it was just an expensive process to try to restore it.
Yes.
And eventually it was demolished, and that's where we are today.
Right. I know the neighbor across the street, Dave Roberts, who has Royal Palm Properties, has one of those precious little buildings, historic buildings, that he just poured his heart and soul into refurbishing. And so we're very grateful to have that piece of property along our beach corridor. And so again, we're back to the ambience of the neighborhood, the height limit. Do you think that adds to the flavor of a beach community?
Well, I think it does, because you've got, when you allow a variance of, from going from 30 to 50 feet is quite substantial.
Sure.
And if you look at the percentage, it's quite substantial. And, you've got one particular property owner who doesn't own this particular piece of property, but owns quite a bit of property on both sides of Palmetto Park Road from the bridge to the beach.
Right.
He's going to eventually take advantage of that.
Right. Well, we're talking about Investments Limited.
Right.
And we have to say Investments Limited were very amicable as far as starting a beach to ocean task force, which unfortunately we didn't follow through with that, but they did, reach across the corridor and shake hands with residents and say, let's do something. And they promised not to build anything for 3 years, but anything can happen.
Right.
That whole parcel could be sold.
Well, 3 years is
nothing.
Nothing. I mean, it takes a year just to do drawings and studies and everything else. So 3 years is nothing, and it guarantees you nothing.
True.
So there's I think just the fact that the precedent could be set
True.
if this thing were to eventually be allowed is troubling.
Well, I'm happy to hear your opinion, Craig. We all love living on the Barrier Island, and you do represent the voice of Port Lamar.
Thank you. I don't know what that
Very
means.
well. Your neighbors are one side of Palmetto.
Right.
We've got Riviera in the center, and then we've got Sun and Surf. So thank you for coming in today and giving us your opinion, and look forward to seeing you biking through the neighborhood.
Okay, well, thank you, Kate. Thank you.
And we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. With me right now is my neighbor and fellow board member for the Riviera Civic Association, Rich Vecchio. Rich has been in real estate since, I guess, about 1978, and he's currently owner of Realty Associates Company here in Boca Raton with 6 offices. I think you can elaborate on that, Rich.
Okay, Katie. Well, thank you. One of the points that I think may be important to the listening audience is that I also have an extensive background in appraising. I was a member of the Society of Real Estate Appraisers, and so I think values are coming into question here in terms of what's happening to East Boca. And I shop and look for homes, even though I'm in the business, for 2 full years to select my neighborhood in Sun and Surf.
Wow.
So it was really critically important that the character of East Boca as a downtown kind of community, small town community residence, as well as all of the beaches and all of the parks that we have and the
Right.
waterways that we have, the character it was so important for me to make my investment, my purchase. And I did make an investment, and I did enlarge the house and make another investment, as a lot of people are doing
Right.
all over East Boca currently, and probably all over the nation. So the situation that we have now, as I understand it, with B1, it's basically 30 feet of height within the Palmetto Park area, Palmetto Park Road, down to A1A.
Correct, for
And
the B1.
that affects all of the communities, such as Boca Riviera, Port Lamar, as well as Sun and Surf, and others. Because whatever happens in that community, as an appraiser and a real estate person, it has a trickle effect outward. There's no doubt about that, because it changes the character of what we have come to love and appreciate in East Boca. So if this is allowed to progress this way, it's a slippery slope, because once you move the variance from 30 to 50 feet, then what winds up happening? One day you're sitting in your backyard with your kids or your grandkids, and you're in the pool, and then you have cover and you have privacy and you're enjoying your investment, and then next year all of a sudden you have people looking down from a balcony or a rooftop, and the whole picture just changes. So I think in terms of property rights for the American public and people here in East Boca, we have to retain the value of the initial investment that we've had.
So, Rich, let me ask, as far as property appraisal, how does the height, the additional height for the B1 corridor on East Palmetto impact single-family residential? I know we've talked about that a little bit, but do you think it also goes over the bridge as well, impacting single-family homes there too, if our beach character is lost?
Katie, without question, the whole overall area is impacted. But factually, this is correct, and this is what happens in East Boca and in everywhere else. Most of our officials and politicians will always say, well, if we're going to expand and we're going to increase the size of commercial, we're going to add tax revenue to the town, and they sell that as a benefit, which is, theoretically possible. However, what really happens in reality is that when you change that and you add another 20, 30, 40, 50 feet or stories to the commercial, what you're adding in assessed value you're diminishing residentially. So the value of your home, my home, and everybody else's home, not just within the beach community, but exponentially moving out,
Wow.
is diminished. So what winds up happening is we wind up creating a revenue neutral situation, but at the same time overtaxing our roads, our services, and everything else. So really we're losing money by increasing variance rights and potential values to commercial.
That's
to commercial
very
real
interesting.
estate.
Very interesting concept, Britt. It's one you don't really hear bantered about much on the Facebook groups, but I'm very interested to hear that, because being a property owner, and I have been a property owner in Boca Raton since longer than I care to say, but it does impact. This is our biggest investment as a homeowner. So, you know, the growth is good. We like sensible growth, but we don't want it to diminish our asset, our personal assets.
Of course, of course. You know, I looked long and hard to select Boca Raton #1. Initially started in West Boca, but I really selected Boca Raton as an overall town in Palm Beach County because, to me, it's really the last bastion of green space as opposed to gray cement space that is being created all over, really from Miami on up.
True.
So we're really almost like an oasis.
That's true.
And if we continue to do away with that and increase the size of commercial real estate and build more, it's nice to have an occasional restaurant. It's nice to have another hotel. But it's even better to have a great intercoastal park, as well as limiting the height so that people can enjoy. And I'm not just talking about the people in Port Lamar and down by the beach. I'm talking about the people that go all the way back over to I-95 and Military Trail, because those folks are part of our town. We appreciate and care about them.
Sure.
And sometimes, you know, I think we get caught up in everybody at the beach wants this, but nobody else doesn't.
Right. I mean, and
I
it
think
helps
everybody
everyone.
came to Boca for the ambiance of East Boca, even the people on the other side of I-95.
Absolutely.
So we need their help and support in maintaining the culture and the ambiance of East Boca.
Well, Rick, that's fantastic. I appreciate all your comments and input today. And I'd just like to give you a little chance to tell us about your company, and if people would like to get in touch with your company, can you tell us, do you have a website or?
Well, I do. It's realtyassociates.com. And, you know, been in real estate since 1978, and I selected Palm Beach County, Broward County, and Dade County to develop my business. I have a regional real estate company with approximately 500 agents, 6 offices, and we do annually now, only after 14 years of being in business, because we started de novo from the first agent. And we try to help our agents help buyers and sellers. And that it really is as complicated as it is. We practice true brokerage with integrity. And we do about $1 billion a year. So the proof is in the actual sales.
And you're a wonderful neighbor.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here tonight.
My pleasure.
And thank you, folks. We'll see you next time with BocaWatch TV.